Welcome back to Biz Jet TV. It's Fab Poli here today, and before we get into the episode today, which is all about fractional jet ownership, I would like to invite you to subscribe to Biz Jet TV. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel, give us a thumbs up at the end of the video, and also have a look around. Lots of interesting content here on the private jet industry, how private jets work, how to lease one, how to buy one, different types of aircraft, lots and lots of information. So have a look around and see what else we have to offer here. So let's get into the fractional jet ownership. This is a subject which people have been asking me about for a number of weeks now, and so I decided to cover this subject. Now, fractional ownership basically means that you own a portion of a jet. Now, interestingly enough, the very first private jet that I flew was a Citation 1 back in the 1990s, and this was a fractional ownership situation. We had two owners that decided to get together, buy 50% of the airplane each, and you know, I operated the airplane for them. I managed it as well. It was interesting. They did get on very well with each other. Sometimes they flew together as well, so they didn't just only operate independently for their companies. They also did some stuff together. The families used to fly together and things like that. So it worked very, very well. But the pioneer that took this model from, you know, just the local airplane owned by two guys down the road to, you know, a global scale was a guy called Richard Santulli. Now, Richard Santulli worked for Goldman Sachs. He was a mathematician, and he was looking at the private jet industry, and he was working out, you know, how he could create a model which was slightly different to the charter or the lease models that were out there. And he came across a company called Executive Jet Aviation. He acquired the company. Now, this had been originally, this company was founded in 1964 by a bunch of pilots. They built the company up to a fleet of about 10 Lear 23s. And they were flying around. So Richard Santulli thought of acquiring the company and then developing this fractional ownership model. And the way it started is he divided the airplane into four, so 25%, four shares, basically 4 quarters. And in fact, all the airplanes, the registration of the airplane was QS at the end, QS meaning quarter share. So he started the company, they went out, they bought a bunch of airplanes, they started this fractional model and perfected it along the way. One of the clients they acquired was a gentleman called Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett bought a 25% share in a Hawker 1000, flew for a few years for the company, saw that they were going places, that this actually worked for him, because the beauty of the fractional ownership model is that you pay for just 25% of the airplane if you're buying a quarter share. So you pay for that share, you then pay for a quarter of the maintenance of the airplane, so the so-called the fixed costs, and then you will pay for, on top of that, just for the variable costs, meaning the hours that you fly. This is convenient if you're flying anywhere between 50 to 400 hours, and you don't want to buy a full airplane. Then what you would do is you would buy a fraction. You'd pay for 25% of the maintenance and the fixed costs. You'd pay for 25% of the airplane, and then you pay for the hours that you fly. So the fuel, you pay only for the fuel that you'd actually use, etc., etc. And that's the way it basically works. NetJets have built the company up now to a fleet of just over 750 aircraft. They do have a global fleet now, which is quite interesting, and they do have smaller aircraft to larger aircraft. So there's a number of different types of airplanes that they offer to their customers. Also, a number of other players have come onto the market, from FlexJet, which was originally started by Bombardier, which started their own fractional ownership company, and then they sold to Directional Aviation, which then changed the name and it's called it FlexJet. We then have Nicholas Air, which operate PC-12s, so that's very local, single engine turboprop on a fractional model. Then we've got also PlaneSense in the US, which operate both PC-12s and PC-24s and offering the fractional model. So this is different to charter, different to leasing. The advantage of a fractional model is that you own the aircraft, so you have a say in, you know, the color scheme on the outside, the interior, what equipment to put up front for the pilots, what Wi-Fi system to have on board. You'll get together with the other owners and decide what you're going to be having on your airplane. You can't do this if you're chartering, you can't do this if you're leasing, but you can if you own a fraction of an aircraft, and you can, of course, if you own the whole aircraft. So this is really the model. Is it for you? I don't know. It would be advisable to speak to an aviation consultant, aviation advisor, to find out more about your business, and I can do that for you. We can have a chat and figure out what's the right model for you. The fractional model is actually on the increase right now. The trend, if you saw my previous episode of Biz Jet TV, the news, the flights of fractional ownership aircraft are actually up by 5.4% in the month of August 2019. And also they've also done a study on millennials lately, and they asked millennials a number of questions, and they did say that the fractional model was something that appealed to them because they could share the cost of the airplane with somebody else. They're not too keen on actually sharing the flight. I'm not sure if that's going to work in the private jet industry. I've been very critical about that model, about sharing a jet as in being on a jet with somebody else. I think this is a model which is destined to fail because the private jet needs to stay private. But, sharing the cost of ownership, I think definitely can work. The challenge can be is if this is on, one airplane and both owners or two of the owners want to use the airplane on the same day, that can be a challenge. But if you buy into a fractional ownership company that has multiple aircraft, and let's say you have 3 or 4 aircraft based in your city on the fractional model, then if airplane A is not available, you can use airplane B because you do own a fraction of one of those types of airplanes. And that's where NetJets, FlexJet, other companies out there that own a number of airplanes and offering this fractional model to their clients. So definitely one to look at, definitely one to study and evaluate in your private jet acquisition. But that's all from me on this episode. If you haven't subscribed to Biz Jet TV, I encourage you to subscribe, like this video, comment below. We'd love to hear your comments, love to see what you think, and love to hear from you regarding suggestions and things like that. Well, that's all from Fab Poli at Biz Jet TV, and I'll see you on the next one.